I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill and be well.
This is Shelley with Truth Lives. I'm here with my beautiful sister in Christ, Christy from BattleBornBelievers. Today we're going to be talking about the rise of the satanic super soldiers and the Black Awakening. This really began with Hitler and the Nazis and the Black Flame, and Hitler wanting a superior race, the Nazis did, which is what they were out to create. And they were using splitting of the human mind and personality by satanic ritual abuse, and it led to the splitting of the mind or the personality into different personalities or subpersonalities. And at this point they are able to take one split personality and split it again up to like 100 times. They use this for controlling these individuals. The people who are a part of the satanic super soldier army call themselves the chosen ones. And it's up to about, according to Russ Dizdar, the fourth or fifth generation. There are millions of them all over the world, and they are in every walk of life. Let me give you a little understanding of the human DNA here and what Satan's been doing all through history. He has wanted to seat himself as God in the temple of God. And we've been taught for a very long time that there will be a third temple built in Israel, in Jerusalem. And while I can't disagree that there may be a temple built there, I have been saying I don't want us to be like Sadducees and the Pharisees when people of Israel were waiting for Jesus to come. They were expecting him to come and set up the government of God on earth at that time. So they were looking for him to come and do that and to be king at that time. And they were also waiting for him to take down the Roman rule from off of Israel. So we're being told that the Antichrist will step into a temple in Israel and seat himself as God. But the Bible tells us that we are the temple of God in 1 Corinthians, I believe it's 16. The human DNA it's a double-stranded helix. And on each one of those strands, there's 22 autosomes, with another pair giving it 23, but that 23rd pair is either going to determine that someone is male or female. Now, if you will take a look at Skull and Bones and how they always give us things hidden in plain sight, which is what they like to do. Underneath the Skull and Bones, there's a 322. You have to stop and ask yourself, what does that 322 represent? Because it always represents something for the Illuminati, the elite. What they're telling us hidden in plain sight is that they want to put in that third strand of DNA, which would make mankind no longer completely human, but once again, like Satan did back with the hybrids and the giants in the Old Testament, humanity would be hybrids at that point and could no longer be saved. But since we are the temple of God, he wants to seat himself in the temple of God, saying that he is God.
Absolutely.
Just before the Queen died, they lit up a triple helix DNA in light bulbs all across in front of wherever she was standing. And it went and lit up a tree. See, With us being the temple of God, the Antichrist, being Satan in the flesh, will come and seat himself in the temple of God, which is humanity.
Within us. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, they're on every cell of our body. They're like little computers. In our DNA, we have the signature of God on every part of us. We are 100% the temple of God. I think so many will be fooled because they're waiting for this third temple to be built. We are that temple. He is going to try and dwell within us. He's already doing it. And then we'll be Homo sapien 2.0, okay? For those who are accepting the changes, and we have to be careful about how we say it. And there's just multiple steps in which they're doing that, and they have already started it. It was with the great P word that started several years back, and then shortly thereafter, an injection. This was the first trial run. This is why every few months or every 3 to 6 months, people were getting more and more and more. This is just the precursor to what's coming next. Like she said about the super soldier, I'd like to explain a little bit about this. The beast system is not what most people think it is. Yes, it's the fallen angels, it's the Antichrist, but they don't see the bigger picture. There's many programs within this beast system that works with the elites who create these shadow government projects, and all of it is for the experiments on changing the DNA, creating hybrid beings, a hybrid army, and breeding programs, which I was part of. I was also part of the super soldier thing. I don't have nearly as many memories on that, but I have enough to know what they were doing. And I'm telling you right now, they are creating an army that will be triggered. And when they start killing their selected targets, it will go on for some time, and then they will end up killing themselves. But what happens when they do this? This incites fear all over the world. And when you are in fear of the very person that lives in your house or lived next door to you that you've known your whole life, that all of a sudden came out and start shooting people they've known their whole lives. I mean, there's going to be more violence, man against man.
This is going to be a massive, it's going to lead into the red horse. We've also been taught that in Revelation, the red horse is war, which I don't disagree with, but we're not taught that it is going to also be the unleashing of these super soldiers, which will be a massive scale, frenzied bloodshed across the world. People need to use discretion with their kids watching.
Disclosure here, this is not for children's eyes or ears. We're going to be showing some clips in here that are quite disturbing as well. This is not something that we take pleasure in doing. We really need to warn the public about what is coming. The beast system is not what people
Good to see you
expect.
today. You know, here at this place, we're thinking our 1919, the book of Revelation, chapter 19, one verse. It struck me years ago in the context of writing the book, The Black Awakening. As I began to write the book, The Black Awakening, looking at that verse over and over and over again, I was taken by it because looking into the future. And let me say this, that's what prophecy is all about. God's intel, 1,000 prophecies, well over 500 already fulfilled. Revelation 19:19. the real reason for Armageddon. Armageddon, every military person in the world should understand this, but they do not. And the films do not understand Armageddon at all. This is a biblical revelation. This is a biblical revelation that rips open hell's playbook and unveils what the dark side's ultimate end is. It's not just the Antichrist, not just a new world order, not just an Antichrist in the temple beating his chest declaring that he is God, and he never was and never will be. It's not just that. The end game is Armageddon. The end of this issue is Armageddon. If you've read Revelation chapter 20, one angel seizes Satan and chains him and thrusts him into the abyss for 1,000 years, and there is no war. Satan knows the scripture well. Revelation 12, this is why we read that he knows his time is short, filled with wrath. That side is in a frenzy in the end of days to get to Armageddon. Armageddon is not about the nations fighting one another. It's not about, nation against nation. All of that will continue to the end. But Armageddon is something bigger, broader, global. Something so unprecedented, so big, but it's already in the process. Decades of development in the underground. And we're seeing the leaking of it coming out all around us. In the future, in the rise of the Antichrist, in the end of those days, there'll be the acquisition and the assimilation of all the technologies we're seeing. But don't you forget that in the development of all the prophecies that 2,700 years ago in Daniel, God said that a kingdom would come, an empire would come, unlike anything in human history, but not by human hands. You and I must understand that all of this involves dark side power. Engagement of the world, Revelation 12, the dragon. Mentioned again, the dragon. He is the ancient serpent. He is he is Satanas. He is the deceiver, the destroyer. He's mentioned in Revelation 12 again and again and again and again. He brought down 1/3 of the angels. He brought down the human race. He stood before Christ, God in human flesh, with the audacity to want him to bow. And Jesus snuffed him out right there by quoting the Word of God. More is spoken about the dark side's development in the end of days than the rapture and the millennium and the great white throne all put together. Huge insight and exposure to the sequence of satanic evolution. And you and I are in the midst of it. It will be a spiritual battle, OK Corral, as never before seen in the history of the world. It is the world that needs to fear. It is the world that is buying into the global deception. And he says that planos, that's the Greek word, these seducing, imposter, deceiving spirits, they're going to come to deceive so many. One singular verse gripped me years ago. I began to wonder about that verse over and over and over again. And John, 2,000 years ago, again, eyes opened by God to see the actual, all the calculations, all the contingencies, real future history. And he says, I saw the beast, the Therion, hybrid, Homo Satanas, the Antichrist, the little horn. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gather together to make war, not against each other, but to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. The issue of Armageddon is all about stopping the descent of Christ. It's huge. It's militaristic. It's massive. Everything else is done for this event because in the Apocalypse Jesu Christu, the visible return of Christ, this is very huge. Our 1919, the truth is, the Theron, the Antichrist, Homo Satanas, he's on the field. He makes it there. Anybody believe we're out of here in less than 20 years? Anybody believe we're out of here in less than 15? Less than 10? Then the Antichrist has already been born. The false prophet's already been born. The system is in place, bulging at the seams, ready to be unleashed. Restrainer restrains the sum total of hell's project. Until the restrainer is removed, they can't do anything. 1919, the kings of the earth, they are also on the field. They're the elite. We go back 3,000 years ago to Psalm 2. Listen carefully. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed. We're talking about the ultimate fulfillment of a 3,000-year-old prophecy. Do you know how clear, infallible, accurate the prophecies are? It blows out of the water Nostradamus, Edgar Casey, Sylvia Brown, the psychics, and the new remote viewers. Look at verse 3 in reference to the dark side. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Look at verse 4. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree, the Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day I have begotten thee. Ask of me, and I will give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the utmost parts of the earth for thy possessions. Thou shalt break them. This is Armageddon. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Now listen to verse 10, Barack Obama. Listen to verse 10, Mr. Putin. Listen to verse 10, Supreme Court. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. 3,000 years ago, living words. Living words. Be wise now, therefore, ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all you that put their trust in him. Our 1919, the future's most advanced technology, the most powerful military system in history is on the ground. The most supernaturally empowered, transmuted troops of Antichrist, super soldiers, are there. If tens of millions and millions and millions of the redeemed are descending, what do you think, in the equation of all of this, what do you think the enemy's going to have on the ground? So, I read a book a couple of years ago, Introduction to Planetary Defense. The guys, 2 from the Department of Defense, 2 from NASA, weapons specialists, engineers, discussing the scenarios that in case something from outer space, something that would open up, would come down to threaten the planet, they need to have the strategy for a global military system and the weapons that would be strong enough to blast out of the skies anything descending onto the planet. In 1994, 1995, a Fort Bragg Psi warrior, one of the chosen ones, had powers inside, demonically enhanced, DNA enhanced, all the rest. Spoke numerous languages, numerous personalities. I engaged the sub-programmed assassin personality one day when they pulled their weapon out to show it to me. A New Earth Army. Look at the words. Envision the militaries of the world uniting to serve the planet. In 1994, 1995, this Fort Bragg Psi warrior from the experiences of Goat Lab, where soldiers were being trained to acquire, they called them psi powers. The practice was to bring goats in and to so project your mind you can explode the heart of a goat. Thus, as a soldier, you can project your powers and disorient the enemy's mind or explode their heart or engage him in some way. So this side warrior hands me a manual called the 1st Earth Battalion by Colonel Shannon, Lieutenant Colonel Shannon. And as I begin to read this, I see that this guy went after all the New Age, elements and got a hold of all the spiritual elements of the New Age and combines it together to try to present to the Department of Defense the creation of U.S. soldiers to be psi soldiers, enhanced soldiers, telekinesis, clairvoyance, telepathy, other powers. He hasn't stopped, and this is light level compared to the dark side and their developments. Revelation 19:19, super warriors, non-human enhancements. Let it be a warning to all those in the past, all those in the present, all those going into military systems anywhere. It is my belief that even during the days of Operation Paperclip, a black Trojan horse of Nazi spiritually inspired thoughts and ideas and mind control and the transmuting of a human to turn them into a Manchurian candidate, programmed assassin, and all the rest was spewed out, not just in the United States, but in Russia, all across Europe, other nations. We'll talk about that. But the mutation of a human being to be a super soldier is where the vast danger lies. Soldiers with advanced technology, liquid armor, exosuits. Super soldiers with digital connection and controlled drones. If they can control thousands of drones from a mountainside and attack from around the world, what about soldiers that have the equipment, brain, mind, computer and hand, connection? Think in terms of the ability to send the command, to send a thought, to send instruction with things that are placed deep in the head and I'm saying again, transmuted. Super soldiers with bio or genetic enhancements. Just get the gene in the panther that enables the panther to see in the dark and gene splice it into a soldier and give them abilities. DNA, gene splicing, DNA alteration is nothing new. This goes way back, Genesis 6. This goes all the way back to the Nephilim issues. Please understand, with my understanding of the Nephilim, this smells of the concept of Nephilim.
Is not what people expect. First, I'd like to explain what a super soldier is. Shelley touched on it just a few minutes ago about the breaking of a person. They break you through trauma, they break you into pieces. Then they attach first of all, they create personalities with each one of those assassins, and a number of other things. And they attach a demon to it. So you're literally controlled. When that part of you is activated by a word, by frequency, by a number of different things. The CIA has been experimenting with this for years, and it has branched out into many different mind control programs. They were testing out on me for many, many years. Then I was thrown into several different programs as well. And when they break you're not even aware of it. You might have some, bleeding through memories, which is what's happened to me. But when they break you, you're not even aware of it. So your mom or your dad that you live with could have this, they could actually have one of these. And when they're activated, there's nothing stopping them. They are highly trained. A lot of them are altered. The first, second, and third generation, I do not believe have implants. But the fourth and fifth, I do believe have an implant in which they can communicate with one another. It's like a hive mind system where you can literally be given orders and carry out those orders. And when you go all the way to the top, and I know this for a fact from my own experience, when you go all the way to the top, you're starting with the principalities on down to the elites, down onto the some of these dark projects that we do know about with the CIA and things like that. And then you keep on going down, they branch off, and they've been doing experiments for over 100 years, mind control experiments. In World War II, they brought the scientists over to work in these programs, these horrendous, evil people they brought over here. Instead of putting them to death like they should have been for their crimes, they brought most of them over and put them to work in these black projects. These people do experiments that are unimaginably evil.
Okay, they brought them into NASA and other parts of the government, and the descendants or children, grandchildren that were brought over here from the people who were originally brought from Nazi Germany, who were supposed to be a part of the Nuremberg trial, were never tried. Instead, they placed them into NASA and other high-ranking positions. And now, at the time where we're at, in this generation, their descendants are the ones in NASA and the other high-ranking positions. And in psychology, it's not called satanic ritual abuse. It's DID in the DSM-5. The way they word it is that it causes a trauma in kids, causing them to dissociate.
Yes, they
It's
start.
the splitting of the mind and the personality, yes. And children
start
with
as a
this type of
child.
condition, yeah. And even sometimes during pregnancy, before the child is ever even born, they begin that fear and traumatizing through satanic ritual abuse and the demonization. But children with this type of condition may have actual brain abnormalities and brain structures, which is very, very.
Okay. What Shelley just said right there is 100% true. They started on me as early as I can remember, like 3 or 4 years old, with the trauma. And I was constantly being abducted as well. It was within my household. And I believe, based on everything I've gone through with the Lord, with God releasing me from these things and breaking these chains and these oaths that my ancestors made, I believe I was dedicated before I was even born. I would not doubt whatsoever that when I was a child inside my mother's womb, I was already being tormented and broken. And I actually remember a lot of things, just like within my own household. My mother ended up marrying this man who was very evil. And she would leave at night. He would do this thing, like this circle around my bed, and then he'd walk back and forth, like saying things to himself. I believe it was chanting. And then he would like suffocate me and do things like that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then I started, losing memories. I had abductions. I don't remember having abductions before this period of time, although I'm sure I did. And I remember in my abductions for these breeding programs, because that's how it started for me, that they would tell me that I am family. They are my family. They're my extended family, and that I was there to help. I was to help grow the family, to help the family. And this was told to me telepathically. So they were more like implied words rather than like we're speaking now. And I would feel it. I felt a lot of love from them, but they did a lot of things to me. And I know that they did because there's lots of evidence over the years. And as I became to break me, and as I became a teenager, I started really, really feeling the harshness of these abductions. And then as I got older, more abductions started, more things started happening. And now it's the black projects that they're pulling me into. First, I was a targeted individual, and then they started pulling me into these other projects. I mean, I must have had at least a dozen personalities for each one of these things, because yes, I have memories of them and they were me, but it's like they just they bled through. They have a way of blocking your memory. It's like a wall that they put so you don't remember. But the God I serve, which is Yahweh, has broken these things, got me away from these things. I still deal with the targeted stuff, but God even protects me with that. I just want to put out there that he who is in you, the Holy Spirit, is greater than any device, any principality, any demon in this world, any tactics of the enemy. And you need to understand, and this is what people truly do not understand, this beast system, it goes it goes way further than people know. All of these shadow government projects where they're creating chimeras, they're creating super soldier dogmen, which look like werewolves. They're creating hybrid human beings that now live among us.
Yes.
And they don't, and people don't understand that. And what she said about the DNA, once you change the DNA that God put into your body, you are no longer human. You have taken the signature of the living God off of you and put the signature of Satan on you. And you are no
Exactly.
longer redeemable once you agree to this. So at some point, all of us are going to come to a point where we have to make a choice between eating and taking care of our families,
Mhm.
or taking whatever device they offer. And remember
Right.
this, those who reject it, the Lord Jesus Christ will take care of you. Where there isn't a
Yes,
way,
he
he will
will.
make a way. Go ahead, Shelley.
The only thing, what I was going to say is, in Daniel, it talks about the Antichrist seating himself, and in Revelation about him seating himself in the temple. And some of those things were already going on back early in the Bible. Ezekiel, in Ezekiel 8, it's 1 through 17, if anyone wants to look that up. They were using satanic rituals or some type of occult to cloak what was being done, because it took God to actually take the prophet of God in through the wall and show him the horrible things that they were doing there, that God calls detestable,
Absolutely.
because they're so horrific. But it actually took him taking Ezekiel, I believe it was more than once, that he took him in to show him and uncloak what they were doing, because they use ritual also to cloak the drug trade and trafficking of humans and all the things that they're doing, and they use it to cloak the satanic ritual abuse too. That's how it stays so well hidden.
Absolutely.
It's a spiritual thing.
Yeah, and it's easy to
Yeah.
hide if they don't remember. I mean, you're seeing lots of symptoms from these
Mhm.
people that are abused, like myself, with SRA. You're seeing the
Right.
symptoms, but you're not placing it. And these families, they just are so good at keeping these secrets. But when you take someone's memory, because you're literally creating all these different personalities and you're shutting them down, and you activate them with keywords and different things.
Right.
Actually, they're like key phrases, but um,
Yeah.
or frequency, which will be a thing. I
Hmm.
believe will be on a mass scale when they
Oh,
release
I
super
do too.
soldiers.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
definitely do.
and it shows in the Bible. We're going to bring up a screen right now that shows you where in the Bible it says that, and it's specifically like the red horse talks about men killing one another,
Yeah,
and
in Revelation.
it's usually when God explains something, and it's war, he gets into the specifics of the war, but he's talking about how men are just going to be slaying each other left and right. This is man on man. This is going to become chaos all over the world. But
Yeah,
just
and I do believe we'll have war, but I believe that it's also going to be that what
we're having
Russ
both.
Dizdar always called swazo. He used the Greek word a lot that had to do with just frenzied slaughter of man against man, person against person.
Absolutely.
Would you like for me to read that introduction?
Yeah, can you read that, please? Yeah.
This is from The Black Awakening, Rise of Satanic Super Soldiers and the Coming Chaos by Russ Dizdar. This is the introduction. I hope you're ready. It's the end of the age. The time is very close. This book is about the very end and the coming catastrophic collapse of everything. So far, we've seen only the surface. The waters are choppy, but it's underneath the surface where the real danger lurks. The cause of all this has long been neglected and overlooked, or maybe it's because of a supernatural binding, deception, and seduction. It's what's behind the scenes that are moving nations, economics, militaries, politicians, and people. There is a spirit breaking through the veil as never before. Many can feel the ominous others have embraced. Many can feel the ominous others have embraced its masked face as something good. Judas did that once, and the deception ran circles around him, used him, and left him in a field called Akeldama, field of blood. I may not have written well, but the message is true, vital, and a summons to choose. I will say in this book that the unprecedented levels of deception and seduction are here, and it will only get deeper and darker. The dark side of the supernatural has come through the cracks, and its full force is ready to pounce. As you read this book, you will see the term chosen one many times. Let me give you a definition here and now. Chosen ones are those named, so named because they are chosen by Satan to serve him. Chosen ones are those who have come up through the old bloodline, satanic Luciferianism groups that are committed to a coming New World Order and supernatural world leader. These are the many victims of satanic ritual abuse and soul ripping mind control. All of them at this point have been selected, born, and raised in this dark system. They've been split and have many subpersonalities, multiple personality disorder. Most of those subpersonalities have been programmed, mind controlled, and demonized. They are highly trained and constantly maintained. Chosen ones have many abilities, powers, and a deeply seated agenda. Believe it or not, they confess that they are the truths of the coming Antichrist, which they say are here to unleash hell on earth in chaos, such as the world has never seen. The conspiracy is to bring in globalism is here and almost ready to burst in power. This conspiracy was spoken about 3,000 years ago in Psalm 2. It's revealed that this conspiracy is embedded in world leaders, nations, and the masses of people. The goal of globalism is what many are focused on, but that goal is only a necessity for the real end game. That end game is found in Revelation 19:19. Coming to this world is the largest and most advanced military system in human history. This military goal is evolving and emerging as you read. It will not find its unity, supernatural power, and most advanced weapons until after the Great Revolt. Chosen ones deep inside have personalities who know all of this and are waiting for the call. Some kind of supernatural wave will come as planned and as needed. It will strike the sleepers in the chosen ones, only to awaken, empowered, programmed as satanic warriors, and they will unleash the Black Awakening.
Basically, I'm here to announce that we're building Iron Man. Not really. Maybe. It's classified.
The idea is that we're going to take the capabilities of some of the fittest, highest performing individuals in the world, these infantry guys that you were just talking about, and we're going to extend those capabilities. We're going to make them stronger, we're going to make them last longer, and we're going to make them go faster and farther. We're going to take them that extra mile. I know where I am in space. I can tell other people where I am in space. I can transmit that information about where I am in space. I can sense what the soldier is doing. I can sense the motion. I can tell whether he's on the deck or he's standing up. I can tell whether they're sweating profusely. I can tell whether their heart rate is too high. I can tell. We're going to focus on mechanical means to go ahead and increase the capability of human beings. There's a man-machine interface, and that man-machine team is basically what you're looking at here. We took the system out to AP Hill. We put some Army operators in the system. At the beginning of the day, when guys were fresh, the soldier knocked out 26 repetitions, lifting a 185-pound barbell doing squats. And then at the end of the day, after we traversed miles, The guys had run up and down 5 flights of stairs. They had navigated underground through a culvert, a tunnel for half a mile, something like that, in full mop gear. So these guys were tired at the end of the day. When the guy put this system on, got underneath that barbell and knocked out 72 repetitions, that pretty much told us everything that we needed to know. It's remarkable how much more energy this system is providing to the soldier.
This is the U.S. Army's concept of the soldier of the future. This video makes it look like it's just a better equipped soldier. But notice the words neural engineering. That can mean a brain implant that connects a human to computers. The defense agency DARPA has been working on an advanced implant that would essentially put the human brain online. There could also be eye and ear implants, and more circuitry under the skin to make the ultimate fighting machine. Americans are going to have to decide whether this is ethical, because some in our military clearly want it. The super soldiers of the future could simply have enhanced abilities, or they could be part man and part machine, what are known as cyborgs. China is already developing biologically enhanced super soldiers, using what former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe called unethical medical experiments.
This is a big effort on the part of the Chinese government, and it is really horrifying.
China expert Gordon Chang says it's part of a Chinese government plan to create a master race through genetic editing.
They're trying to create a race which is far more intelligent than the rest of humanity, and with super soldiers, they'd be stronger, less susceptible to pain, just better soldiers. This is eugenics. This is creepy. There are no ethical standards. There are no laws.
Now the French military has been given the go-ahead to also create so-called augmented soldiers. The super soldiers of the future will run fast, need little sleep, and little to eat or drink. And they'll be able to fight much longer than ordinary humans. But should we do it? George Lucas, who has taught military ethics to America's naval officers, says ethical concerns lag behind this new technology.
It always does. And the only question is how far.
And Lucas is concerned that future military recruits could be pressured to accept computer parts into their bodies. He believes they should be allowed to refuse them.
The further into these more exotic technologies we go, and the more the risks are not known, the more we must at least rely on volunteerism, if not as much informed consent as is possible.
But the challenge for the United States is, even if we put ethical limits on the super soldier of the future, it's likely some of our adversaries will not. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
General, I want to turn to the China threat. You were really among the first people to come on this program and raise the red flag about China. You told us that they were building a very strong military. We know that they've got the largest Navy in the world. Well, the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, joined me on Sunday Morning Futures this weekend to talk about the intelligence that shows the Chinese Communist Party and what it's doing. Here's John Ratcliffe.
It's called gene editing. It's altering DNA, and it's one of the things that our intelligence shows that China is doing. They've got the PRC, the People's Republic of China, has 2 million strong in its military, and it's trying to make them stronger through gene editing. And that's just one of the ways that China is trying to essentially dominate the planet and set the rules in the world order. And why it's so important and people need to understand is this is an authoritarian regime. It doesn't care about people's individual rights. We've seen what they've done to the Uyghurs. We've seen what they've done in Hong Kong. It's about putting the state first, and that is the exact opposite of what has always made America great.
What's your reaction? We've talked about what they're doing in their use of artificial intelligence in the military, but to actually do this gene editing and have this program to test members of the PLO, 2 million communists, to try to make them better and more equipped to handle extreme weather, more equipped to handle chemical attacks. Pretty extraordinary, the lengths that they're going, General.
Yeah, it's not surprising. You know, as Director Radcliffe said, this is an authoritarian, it's a repressive regime that, as a premium, is constantly in control of its people. And the fact that they're trying to use gene editing tools to change the nature of human beings is not surprising, because this is who they really are. And we had that similar experience, did we not? With Nazism and that authoritarian regime trying to conduct human experiments to do the very same thing. It's really to advance the Chinese Communist Party, and the state is what this is all about. And the fact that they would take human beings and put them through this is quite something else. And the ethical questions that surround that are certainly serious. It's one thing to use techniques like that to control disease. It's another thing when you're altering human beings. That is clearly something that the United States and like-minded countries, democracies, would never take on.
I mean, is China readying to go to war with the United States? And meanwhile, you've got the financial services companies all in on China. Goldman Sachs going to acquire 100% of its securities firm there.
What China wants to do, Maria, is dominate and control the Asia-Pacific region, which they have made some real progress at the expense of the United States. They are the most rapid-growing military in the world. They have a very strong economy. They're in a technology race to control the advanced technologies of the world. They want to dominate and control the world and change the international order, but they want to do it without having to fight a war. And they want to avoid that war, but they will use their military to bully, to intimidate, and if necessary, go to conflict if necessary. But they are, given the success they have had and the progress they've made avoiding conflict, that's really where they are.
All right, General, we're going to leave it there, but I did want to ask you real quick, do you think that the U.S. should get back into the Iran nuclear deal? That's what Jake Sullivan said Joe Biden would do.
I don't think we should get back into the nuclear deal as it was previously constructed, because we know it's flawed. I think they have unbelievable leverage from the Trump administration in terms of the sanctions, the progress made with the Arabs and the Israelis to leverage the Iranians and get a better deal. They have that opportunity before them. Don't just knee-jerk and remove the sanctions. Use some leverage against them. I think the Iranians would have come forward and negotiated with President Trump if he was reelected, because they're in a very desperate situation. We have leverage now that we did not have in 2014 and 2015.
All right, General, we'll be watching. Thanks so much. Good to see you this morning, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to add to that little bit she just said right there. Basically, the rulers of this world come together to war against God, just like in the Babylonian times where they're building up to go against God. That is exactly what this is. One, these agendas involve political, military, environmental, economic, and they also include mind control on a worldwide scale. That's how it started. Okay, what she's talking about there is what comes next. They've already done all of this. They've already got everybody believing what they want, hating who they want, thinking how they want. Everybody's been programmed and prepped and primed for this next stage. Everybody is a Mimi, meaning self-absorbed, only think of yourself. Right. When you trigger these events, daughter against mother, son against father, neighbor against neighbor, we need to be prepared spiritually right now. Anybody who's on the fence, anybody who is lukewarm, you are going to fall for the deceptions that come after this, because this is for a short period of time. All of a sudden, the super soldiers are going to hit. They're going to create chaos everywhere. Then we're going to have invasions. Then someone is going to maybe show up in a UFO and say, We will create peace. We're going to put it into all of this. We're the ones who seated you here. Now, and then off comes the UFO, Mohammed. See, we brought you Mohammed to elevate you spiritually. Oh, here's Buddha. Now here's Jesus Christ. And here's your Antichrist, basically. And he's going to come in, create peace across the world. I mean, this can come in many different ways. This is just one scenario. But after they create chaos everywhere, a depopulation of, according to the Bible, first there's one quarter and then 1/3, and that's what you got left. Half the population, 4 billion people will die in these sequence of events. 4 billion people, and people are going to be screaming and crying for a leader who will create peace. And when you hear peace and safety, it is not peace and safety. It will be for a smidgen of a time, 3.5 years. Then all hell breaks loose. But during that 3.5 years, you're going to have to accept a mark on your hand or your forehead, and they are going to change your DNA. It is going to be a lot more than just a little stamp. They are going to change who you are in the inside. And when you do that, you change everything, your conscience, your protection from God, for one, because when you're not marked with the signature of God, you don't have the protections. There's nothing there. And then they have full access to you. And the next thing you know, you are possessed.
They'll be reprobate.
Absolutely.
And now we're told that today is the day of salvation. And, none of us are promised. People say we're not promised a tomorrow. We're not promised 5 minutes from now. You feel it in the air tonight. It had the aroma of blood and frenzy. The atmosphere was charged with it. It was menacing, murderous, and malevolent all in one, but clearly much more so. An ancient presence of violence and evil was so thick that you could cut it with a knife. I could sense it was on. Everything seemed on edge and ready to erupt. For years, I knew this dark night was coming. It was now at the door. Then I heard the first shots. I jumped up and went to the window to watch. Like always, I had the cable news, the internet, shortwave, and the radio all on at the same time. As the first explosions began, far away, then I could tell they were coming closer and closer. I had my family near me. We were praying, and we did prepare. Immediately, the phone rang, and a friend of mine was screaming at me on the other end. That thing, that subject, that seminar you taught and warned us about, it's happening, isn't it? I can't locate my family, and all the lights are out, he blasted. This person seemed angry at me. I thought of that phrase, don't shoot the messenger. That's a prophetic future.
It is a prophetic, it's exactly what our future is looking at. And these super soldiers are what is going to set everything off. It's a proverbial switch. I believe it's activated through frequency. When it's one-on-one, that, like I said a bunch of times earlier in the video, they activate it when they're working with you one-on-one, they activate it with activation words. But in this case, it's going to be all over the world. It's not just going to be here, and it will be activated. I think this is a perfect time to maybe me share a little bit of what they do in the Super Soldier program when they're getting you ready to be a killer.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, they get you to bond with your team, is a lack of better term. And then they use your teammates against you. They hold the people that you hold dearest over your head. I just want to put that out there before I start. They have a way of making you numb to what you're doing. Though you create a bond with the people that you're with, and I mean, it's a bond, it's like a supernatural bond that ties you to these people, okay? But when they train you, you're literally destroying other people. Destroying, I mean, the most brutal ways. They teach you And they do this with, I know that they use VR, but I also think they do some type of mind transfer. I'm not really sure how that works in the training. But I do know it. But when I say VR, I don't mean like the stuff you buy in the store, like Oculus. That's nothing. When you're in it, you don't know that you're in it. You think this is really you. You can feel everything, you can see everything, you can smell everything, and the places that you are horrific. And it's not the only thing that they do in the training. They have you in your physical body doing certain things too. But they teach you how to use weapons. And they shut off your conscience. Like, you're not thinking twice about it. Does this sound familiar at all? What about all these video games? Kill, 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 murder, murder, murder. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're already training our kids for the after result after these super soldiers are activated. I mean, the mentality of the last couple of generations of kids are primed for this, for violence, hatred, selfishness,
and the virtual reality.
And the virtual reality that is to come after. And there will be a lot of that. Yeah. Yeah. There will be so much more of that. Yeah. They're already doing this. These kids, I mean, this fourth and fifth generation, I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of us across the world, just millions just here in the United States. They're all strategically located where they want them. These people are not even aware. God brought me out of this. This is the only reason I know, is because the Lord Jesus Christ was working through me. He saved me for this. Satan from the very beginning had another plan for my life. And God said, no, this one is mine, and pulled me out of it. Though I went through hell all this time, God had never left my side. And here I am talking about it. Most of us will never even speak on it. I swore until about a year ago that I would never talk about this topic whatsoever, or any of the programs. They have it. It's like they put it in your mind that you don't talk about this. You don't tell the secrets.
It's programmed in.
It's programmed into my mind. It was. God set me free from that and said, no, you're going to talk about all of it. You're not just going to talk about the alien, crap. And by the way, they're not aliens. They're the same part of the same system. Fallen angels, the hybrid children of the fallen angels, then on down to the elites, and then down to the programs, and it's compartmentalized. There's people that work in these programs. They have no idea what the pinky's doing or what the hand over here is doing.
Right.
Everybody thinks they're serving in one way or another. The only people that really know what's going on are the ones up at the top. It's mind control. Do you know that even on the people working in these programs, that they are in programs themselves, not one of them. And when they leave these places, they wipe their memories. And then some of it floods back. They're like, but nobody believes you when you say, hey, I was on a super soldier program, or I was, I'm a targeted individual. That only now are these things coming out where people are starting to believe it,
Right. Well, I've been listening and studying it under Russ Dizdar for like 10 or 12 years. And it's a horrific thing to have to think about or face that it is a part of reality. You just don't picture the world around you that way. And he said there are quite a few who don't want out of it. They don't want to lose what they, their satanic, the demonic power that they have, it is a type of power, but it's still going to take them to hell. And that's the tragic part. Another tragic thing about this is that these people are not even known by their own families for who they really are or what's been done to them in many cases. So when the time comes, and sometimes they have a handler, and they can just make a phone call. They can use a sound. They can use music. They can do it in many ways to elicit a response. Some are shooters, some are runners, some are assassins, and whatever, many of them have all these personalities and speak fluent other languages. Not only, they speak English, they speak German, and I think all of them speak German, don't they, Chris?
I do believe so, but not,
Yeah.
but their program multiples do, yes, because it
Yeah,
all stems from this.
Yes.
Absolutely. Not only that, I mean, these, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we have a whole lot of shooters just popping up saying,
That's
"The voice
right.
in my head wouldn't make it stop." That is they were being activated. This is voice to skull.
Be up to 10 million victims. Our assessment in dealing with satanic ritual abuse, hundreds of them over 30 years now, and sub-personalities and program personalities, priestesses and assassins and runners and spies and every kind of thing you could think of on the inside they need. Those that are able to, by demonic power, project out, use weapons, release demons against Christians, summon powers, do rituals, do human sacrifice. And they, by design, have been placed in every city and every township in the United States of America, now by the thousands. We found out they're in Europe. We've been to Europe, been to Wavelsburg, Kassel, been to Auschwitz, been to France. They're in the Scandinavian countries. They're in Britain. They're in Ireland. They're in New Zealand. They're in Canada. They're in Australia. Our estimations now of 4 generations that go from 19... What we've written about there is part of the entire agenda. What we've seen in the last 3 decades that I've engaged involves what's going to occur down the road. And though we're going to be out of here prior to Armageddon, doesn't mean that the recruiting and the seduction and the deception...
2 women caught on CCTV, putting lives at risk by walking down the central reservation of a motorway. It sparks a police response, but this is only the start. As officers approach, the women run into the fast lane. One is hit by oncoming traffic. Remarkably, neither is seriously injured. The women are twin sisters from Sweden, but what happens next baffles officers. We've frozen the pictures here because of their shocking nature.
My counsel, we need ambulance, senior officers to the scene. We've got 2 possible fatals.
Without any warning, one of the women breaks away from the officer into the traffic and is hit by a lorry. Then her sister also runs out.
Oscar Tango 3-3 on arrival. Both females have ran out into the carriageway. It's got 2 serious casualties. We're going to need air ambulance.
One is in a critical condition, the other's unconscious after hitting this windscreen, surviving an accident which would kill most people. But as she comes round, the situation escalates.
No! No!
Overwhelmed by her strength, the policewoman calls for backup to prevent another major incident on the opposite carriageway. The Swedish woman is in fighting mode, and it takes 6 people to restrain her. The air ambulance arrives and both are finally taken to hospital. But for those left behind, the experience has been traumatic, particularly for the lorry driver who hit one of the women.
She just run out in front of us.
Since the incident, one sister has been convicted of assault and sentenced to a day in prison. Her twin recovered after 7 weeks in hospital. Sophie Hutchinson, BBC News.
Where, despite her ordeal and an apparent lack of concern over her sister's injuries, she soon became calmer and controlled and was released from hospital 5 hours later. Sabina was released. She pled guilty and was sentenced to 1 day in custody. Having spent a full night in the police station, she was deemed to have served her sentence. The following day, at around 7:40 p.m, Glenn made some food, then left the house to ask a neighbour for tea bags, and then went back inside. Under a minute later, he staggered outside, bleeding, telling his neighbour, "She stabbed me." As the neighbour dialed 999, Sabina fled. It was later said that at this point she began to hit herself with a hammer. A passing motorist tried to restrain her and was hit by a roof tile Sabina had in her pocket. Eventually she made it to a bridge, where she jumped 40 feet, breaking both her ankles and fracturing her skull. She was then taken to hospital. Sabina was arrested on suspicion of murder while recovering at the University Hospital of North Staffordshire on the 9th of June. Still in a wheelchair, she was discharged on the 11th of September, charged and taken into custody the same day. Ursula was never charged with any crime. On the 2nd of September, Sabina pled guilty to manslaughter.
6:03, and we continue with a deadly school shooting, and we're learning more about what confessed gunman Nicholas Cruz told investigators during an 11-hour interrogation. The transcript is more than 200 pages long.
And while it was heavily redacted, we've learned that Cruz told the BSO detective that he heard a demon in his head. CBS 4's Riel Creighton is live from the Broward County Jail in Fort Lauderdale with the details. Good morning, Riel.
Good morning, Elliot and Lauren. Nicholas Cruz, according to the report, called himself a coward, a failure, stupid, even said he didn't deserve a drink of water during that hours-long interrogation. So now, for the first time since we learned of a confession, we are getting a much clearer picture of his state of mind right in the hours after that shooting. Police officers arrested Nicholas Cruz around 3:40 p.m. on February 14th. By about 6:15 that day, Cruz sat in front of a seasoned BSO detective to answer questions about one of the deadliest school shootings in American history. But it was comments that Cruz made while alone in that room that reveal much about his thinking. At one point he said, "Kill me, just expletive, kill me, expletive." The information is contained in a 217-page statement that the Broward State's Attorney's Office released Monday. During the interview with BSO Detective John Curcio, Cruz said he twice tried to kill himself. He also said that he hears a voice or a demon in his head. Detective Curcio, what does the voice say to you? What does it tell you to do? Cruz, burn, kill, destroy. Curcio, okay, burn, kill, destroy what? Cruz, anything.
Newport police tell us they came here to the Marriott a month ago for a harassment call. According to the police report, the man we now know as the Navy Yard shooter said people were following him. He was hearing voices and they were putting vibrations in his body to keep him awake. Newport police say they responded to the Marriott Hotel early in the morning on August 7th. Aaron Alexis told police he was a naval contractor who traveled often. Alexis told the officer he had a verbal fight with someone at the airport in Virginia as he was getting on a flight to Rhode Island. And that person sent 3 people to follow him and keep him awake by talking to him and sending vibrations into his body. Alexis left a Middletown hotel, went to a Navy base hotel, but still heard the voices. He escaped to a 3rd hotel, the Marriott, bury it, but the voices continued. Alexis told the officer the three individuals were speaking to him through the floor and using some sort of microwave machine to send vibrations through the ceiling, penetrating his body so he cannot fall asleep. A Newport police sergeant contacted Naval Station Police, which said it would follow up and determine if Alexis was a naval-based contractor. Today, Alexis's employer, The Experts, confirms the 34-year-old information technology employee worked for them for 6 months over the last year, and that his most recent background check and security clearance in June revealed no issues other than one minor
They were
traffic
being
violation.
activated. This is voice to skull. They were being tortured and then activated. This is just a very low level. I do believe those were either to distract from one thing or another, or they were just testing it out to make sure it works. Because most of these people, when they're done with us, we know that we are to kill ourselves. It's an automatic thing.
Yes, I was just thinking that they're all programmed. Everyone is programmed with a suicide personality, and that will be called up when the time comes for that. And so each one of these programmed personalities in the person has a specific function. And the person's up front personality doesn't usually know about the other multiples that are there.
Nope, not unless you're set free from Jesus Christ, and it's a process. It was a process for me. It was one step at a time. I mean, it was not overnight. I mean, you can't just like cast it out and done with people like myself. It is a long process, and it's a painful one.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, what she had said just a few minutes ago, she's 100% right. The majority of them, they are so indoctrinated. They really, really are dangerous people. And the majority of them are all about who they serve, which is Satan or Lucifer in this case, usually. But they are really indoctrinated. I still see them as my brothers and sisters whom I love. I still have a bond with, but I also am very realistic that they are lost brothers and sisters, and they would kill me in a heartbeat because I have betrayed them. So just know that anybody that comes out talking about this is not a light issue. This is you could get shot in the head tomorrow issue.
Yes, and when the handlers elicit that whatever personality they want to call forward, I mean, they're going to turn against their own family members. They may not even know who they are or what they're going to do prior to doing it.
They don't know.
I'm sure they don't, and their family members certainly have no idea of who's going to come against them. But that's the way it's going to play out. And, people are being taught that we're waiting for a rapture, which I believe Jesus is going to take his people out at some point, because the Bible tells us he's going to, from every corner of the earth. But while people are waiting for the church to be raptured out of here, what happens when that isn't the case and all this widespread, massive scale bloodshed and slaughter begins, and that hasn't happened yet? I mean, the fear is, and people are going to be deceived.
People are going to lose faith is what's going to happen. All these watered down Christians that are still in bottles for 30, 40 years are going to go, well, he didn't come rescue us. I call it the escapism theory. And yes, God's going to rescue us. He says he does. But I don't know of too many of God's people that didn't go through some trials and tribulations along the way. Look what's happening in China, in other countries. People are dying for their faith.
Being persecuted,
what about them?
yes.
They're being persecuted. Yeah.
We're not appointed to wrath. He never said he did tell us that we would suffer and be persecuted. So
a lot of us will have to die for our faith, but he also said that we never walk alone. God's given me dreams and visions, and I'm walking around with no fear, but I'm in danger. I'm seeing it. God showed me dreams of the super soldiers.
Yeah, that's a video I'll have coming up on the battle with fear and the long battle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to be collaborating on some dreams and visions. So stay tuned for both of our channels for that. So it's going to be interesting.
Thank you, Christy. I really appreciate you being here today, or both of us being here.
I appreciate it too. I really like how we're collaborating on some of these topics. We just really have a passion for getting these things out to you guys. We're going to be doing a lot more. Today was just kind of an intro into some of the beast system topics. We're going to go more into this topic and then kind of give you a more broad spectrum on what's going on with some of the other things too, and a little more detail into the super soldier and some of the other programs. Please stay tuned for all our other videos on both channels. She does a little different thing on hers and I do a little different thing on mine. So you get a little extra here and a little extra there. So make sure you subscribe to both. So make sure you stay tuned to Truth Lives and Battleborn Believers.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom,
I
shalom.
can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. Come to the table, cup runneth over. Come drink your fill.